In another edition of the Daily KodoTips, today I want to talk about how you could invalidate this piece of shit character. The character that has been oppressing you for so long with these lasers, right? What if I told you that there's a way to invalidate it? And the way to invalidate it is by sending the laser back at them. And obviously I'm clickbaiting a little. Falco does have a little bit more tools once you power shield the lasers back, but especially at lower to higher, like low mid level, if you're able to consistently power shield Falco's lasers, you will beat him. You'll beat him for sure. It's not until like high top level that you need to start thinking about some Falco counterplays. But the way to just beat Falco straight up at lower levels is to send the laser back at him, and that's otherwise known as power shielding. And I will just show you how to do it because it is a consistent thing. Okay, so I did like 10 power shields in a row. And you could do that too. You could do that too from knowing consistent setups. So, what is the consistent setups? So here is prerequisite number 1 for setting up consistent power shields. Number 1 is that I really recommend that you have a dedicated power shield trigger. Because Marth, if as a character, if you really want to get out tight spots, you need a light shield. And light shielding is required in some spots. So personally, I like making my R trigger a light shield trigger. Whereas the other trigger is a dedicated power shield trigger. Fun fact about power shielding is aside from Z power shielding, you cannot really power shield with light shield. I know there's some exceptions here and there, but in general, you don't want the light shield to get in the way. And in order to do that, before you even boot up Slippy, make sure that you already hold one of either your L or the R button, so then you can't light shield at all. So that's step number 1. You see with my L trigger, I literally cannot light shield. My R trigger, I can light shield. And you don't want to light shield when it comes to power shielding. There's also the second prerequisite to make it a lot easier is that you can open up your controller using a tri-ring and other tools. There's tutorials out there on how to open up your controller and removing the springs and whatnot. I personally remove the spring for the L trigger. So then not only is it less pressure, but also it's a little bit more ergonomic because you don't have to press your L trigger that hard. And if you really want to be fancy, you can add in a full trigger plug. So then the distance, it's just basically like a very easy press rather than like having the spring really get in the way. So there's also mods that, maybe you could hire a controller mod, maybe you could do it by yourself. When I was starting off the game, I simply did it by myself, and it was a little bit of an obstacle, but I did do it. And there's definitely good tutorials out there that can teach you how to do it. If you get a tri-wing and another screwdriver and some little bit of trial and error. So this is how you could get optimal. This is how you could do consistent power shield setups with that prerequisite in mind. But there's also other things to keep in mind when it comes to power shielding lasers. So obviously there's like the normal, you power shield just standing still. This one is probably the hardest one to hit. As you can see, not even I'm hitting it all the time. But right before the laser hits you, it is possible to time it a power shield. But it's like probably the hardest one. Like maybe a 2-frame window, I think, depending on how close the laser is. It's hard. A way to make it a little bit more consistent is actually standing behind. If you stand behind, spacing behind him makes the power shield more consistent. I'm really not really sure why, if I'm being honest, but it feels easier that way. So you could also stand behind him and power shield. Another option that you consider, which is probably like the second most common option, is crouch power shield. You let the laser kind of go above you, and it makes timing power shields really easy. See this? I'm just letting the laser go above. and I'm power shielding much more consistently than before. The problem with this option, though, is that if they shoot low lasers, you can't power shield it nearly as easily, if not straight up impossible to power shield. And you're also pretty stationary, and you give your like when you crouch right in front of them, it's very obvious to them that you're gonna power shield. So there's that as well. I think crouch power shield is an easy setup, but it has its limitations. Probably the most flexible power shield options are dash back power shields, where not only are you creating more distance to react to the lasers, but also it just naturally gives you a bigger frame window, just like crouch power shield. So watch this. I create more distance. My power shield consistency is very high. And that's how you could power shield consistently. And even against low lasers, you could dash back power shield and fine. There might be an exception here and there, but for the most part, Falco mains have been saying how, like, oh, there's this one laser trick that Mark can never power shield, but I've never seen it come to fruition, nor do they do it consistently. So this is pretty good, even at top level. You see me do it all the time. So there is this technique to consider. And obviously, the other thing that you need to do is that a fun fact about power shielding projectiles is that you have no shield stun. And when you have no shield stun, that means you could instantly wave dash out a shield after power shielding a laser. Common things you could do is after you power shield a laser is that you could wave dash and grab, or wave dash and dash attack, or wave dash inside B. Some examples to do. So you also need to be very practiced with your wave dash out shield in order to make the most out of your wave dashes. In order to make the most out of your power shields. Last thing to consider is that, you know, once you get at higher levels, you might want to consider doing power shield wave dash down so that you maintain pressure and advantage, and then like see what happens. Although, you know, because like going in is not going to always work, and wave dash down is probably one of your best bets at maintaining advantages. And one last thing to consider is that if you hit a crouch power shield, one of my favorite options to do is an immediate nair. Like something like that. It is such a good option. So the most important thing to consider is the speed out of your power shields and just catching the Falco. This is going to definitely work at low to mid levels. It's probably going to work at high levels too. And it still works pretty well at top level. So that's kind of like the one easy trick of beating Falcos, is just sending the laser right back at them. Hope this video was helpful. Please like and subscribe. Let me know what else you would like me to go over. And yeah, I'll see you around.